Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So this video is a decorating video. I just forgot to do an intro for it. So basically it is a geode cake, which is the geode crystals. So I'm going to be showing you how you cut that section out, how I apply buttercream to it, and then how I put the geode crystals in there. I forgot to mention in the video, or like put any text on it, that you smash up the geode crystals. So I use a rolling pin and I just do it in a bag, and then I just smash them up so that you get some that are bigger, some that are smaller. Otherwise they do tend to be very big whenever I order them. And I just get mine on Etsy, so I will link the lady that I get them from down below because she is amazing. Every time, because people sometimes order things quite last minute or they can't decide on a design, this design was decided on really last minute. The cake had actually been booked like weeks before, but we didn't actually decide on the geode design until like 5 days before, and I said to her, I was like, I'm really sorry, I know you usually post first class, but can you post tracked? And then she did, and it came really quickly. She posted it like the same day that I ordered. So yeah, I always order from her when I buy those geode crystals, and she's amazing. So yeah, like I said, I'll link her down below, and I'll link all the other stuff that I use for it as well. And it's like a camo design, so I did my like tie-dye / ombre technique, which you'll see, where I blot the buttercream kind of randomly with colours just to create that random design. So you'll get to see all of that in this video. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I thought it was quite a cool cake, and I'll also link where I got the moulds for the ammo and the grenades because it was a Call of Duty theme. So I also bought those on Amazon, so I'll link those down below as well. So quick mention, I am doing a sale on my website and my Etsy for payday, and also because I go on holiday next week, I'm going to Weymouth, so only in the UK. It's kind of like a staycation, but I am doing a sale because it is my last posting day for 2 weeks, or like 10 days. So my last posting day is Thursday, I feel like it's the 28th, I think. I'm pretty sure. No, that was Monday. It's Thursday the 1st of July is my last posting day. You can order up until Wednesday midday. This video is going to be going up on Tuesday, and there is 20% on everything apart from cakes. So anything that you can order online, postals, merch. I'm actually wearing the merch currently. Someone actually ordered some merch. So yeah. If you want to get 20% off, and you'll get it this week, whether it is a postal, you know, like chocolate slab, brownie tray, you'll get it by the weekend, then please go ahead and order. I'll link my website and my Etsy down below, and you can get 20% off of everything. It has to be over £10, but pretty much all of my products are over £10. So yeah, you pretty much get 20% off everything. And it's only this week, and then I'm on holiday, and then we will be back to normal postals on the 12th of July. So yeah, let's get right into the video. Hey guys, back again. So I'm attempting to do a voiceover for this cake, so please bear with me. So first thing I want to mention is please excuse that horrific crumb coat. I stacked this cake when it was still a bit warm, and it just kept on wanting to slide around. So as you can see, I kind of gave up with the crumb coat, but because we're doing such a thick layer for the ombre / tie-dye, it didn't matter too much. So as you can see, I'm just blotting the colours all around the cake. There's no particular technique for this, but I wanted it to be mostly green, so that's why I'm obviously doing mostly green. The brown gives it a bit of a blending tone, so I would recommend having 4 shades when you're doing these types of cakes, because it gives it a tone that kind of dilutes the main colour, which is green. Then we added a bit of black, but you don't want to add too much because otherwise it will overpower the cake. So once you've blotted that, then you can start to fill in the gaps. So as you can see, I filled in all the main colours that I wanted, and then now I'm just filling in the gaps with the greens, just so that that's kind of like the main colour. So yeah, you just basically blot this around. I would recommend using piping bags because I do think it makes it so much easier. I have tried it with a palette knife, and it was just so difficult to get it accurate, whereas this way you can just blot it in little splodges, and they're all even as well, or you can add more if you want to, whereas if you use a palette knife it's so hard to get even amounts. So yeah, please excuse my talking in this. I kept like in the actual video, I think I was talking to someone when I was filming this, so I keep actually looking away from the cake, but yeah, so For this, I did, how much did I do? I think I did 2 blocks of butter for this, so that I had plenty to colour. This is a 6-inch cake, and 2 blocks of butter was 250 grams each, so that is 500 grams, and then I mix it. I don't do 2:1 ratio all the time because I find it makes it, for the outside coat, it makes it too stiff. So for the outside coat, I always do kind of like 1 to 1.5, and then if I'm doing the inside, like stacking a cake, then I do 2:1. So I used about 750 icing sugar for this, so then it's nice and easy to blend because it's nice and soft. So as you can see, I'm just using my Finch bakery scraper. I would 100% recommend, I always say this, I don't use any other scraper, just because I find that it really makes a difference which one you use. So I'm just using one of my patterned ones, but I'm using the straight side, and we're just blending. So where I did the dodgy crumb coat, as you can see at the top, it goes in slightly, so there's my sister. So what I'm doing is just making it bulge out slightly at the top, which then allows it to become straight, because it did go in at the top, it kind of went into a bit of a cone. So by filling the top, it just creates that straight line. So if you're ever finding that your cakes are a bit cone-like, where they thin out at the top, all you need to do is just add extra buttercream around the top, and then scrape in a straight line, like have your scraper very straight, not angled, and then it just seems to flatten that out. So yeah, I never have any issues like that. So I'm using some scraps here because, as you can see, they're kind of half blended in terms of the colours, so it works quite well to get the ombre effect. It doesn't have to be pretty, just get it on the cake. So then we are going back in and scraping again, and as you can see, you wouldn't even know that it started to cone at the top. So now I'm taking a sharp knife and I'm just carving out the geode section. I don't like to take too big a chunk out, just because otherwise it does obviously mean that you have less cake. So I prefer to take a smaller amount out and make it more of a decorative piece rather than kind of like a main focus of the cake. So it's up to you, but I also don't want the customer to lose out on cake by me cutting out a massive section. So as you can see, you just cut out the section that you want out of the buttercream. I thought that it looked really cool where the buttercream is, because it's all like camoed on the inside where I've cut it. But yeah, so you just cut as big a piece as you want. I tried to make it as even as possible, so that's why I just kind of went in and kept cutting little bits off, getting any excess sponge out of there so that it's not too like messy, because you will be covering it in buttercream, so you want it to be a big enough gap that you can get like a palette knife in there and fill it. Otherwise yeah, you're going to end up, it's going to be too small basically to be a geode section. It's got to be able to fit crystals on both sides. So I would say you want to cut maybe like at least an inch, maybe 1.5 inches wide. And then at the bottom there, I do pan down the camera in a second, but at the bottom I'm cutting another section which is about 1 inch wide. I would say maybe the top is maybe like 1.5 to 2 inches. Some people cut like a massive section out the cake, it just really depends. The customer was happy for me to just do what I want with the cake, so I decided to go for more of a decorative piece rather than a main focus of the cake. And I would say, because the cake is roughly 8 inches tall, I've probably cut downwards about 3 inches maybe. Unfortunately I didn't measure, but yeah, you can kind of see from the ratio of the cake that I didn't cut more than halfway down. So now we're just using the scraps. So this can be the buttercream that you've just scraped off when you did your ombre, doesn't really matter, and you just palette knife it in there. It doesn't have to be pretty, just make sure there isn't too much excess. Because when you put the crystals in, you want it to stick, but you also don't want the buttercream to come through the gaps in the crystals when you push them down. Then we're just doing the same with the one at the bottom. This one was a little bit more fiddly because it is a lot smaller, so I definitely will be cutting this a bit bigger in the future just because it's easier to fill, but I didn't want it to be as big as the one on the top. So I'm just using a sharp knife. This is what I do when I'm trying to clean my board. I use a sharp knife and I just scrape basically. I find that because I cover my board, it makes it a lot easier to clean, because I find the silver boards have a lot of texture, whereas this is a silver board and I cover all of mine in contact paper, which just allows them to be a lot smoother, and it also makes them white, which is always nice because a lot of my cakes are gold themed or like have gold accents, so I just find this way it makes it neutral, whereas otherwise I'm going to have silver board and then gold on the cake, which this one did actually have. So yeah, we're just scraping the board to make sure it's nice and clean. I think I did wipe it later on, but this is just a good way to get most of the excess off. So I'm just cleaning up any little notches that were kind of like sticking out that I didn't want. I decided to leave a rough edge at the top, as you can see, so I didn't cut it so that it's nice and sharp. You can just again use a sharp knife and have it flat and then cut around the edge if you did want that sharp edge at the top. Now I'm just applying all the crystals. I initially did this with gloves, but then when I did all the smaller pieces I did have to take my glove off because they are so fiddly that they just fall out of your hands. So I'm applying the biggest pieces in the crack down the middle, and then I work my way out. I put the biggest pieces as close to that as possible and then put the smaller pieces on the outside, just because it's a better way to work out. You want it to stick out more if you're putting them in the middle, I think. This is the way that I do it anyway, whereas I think if you have bigger pieces on the edge of the opening towards the outside, then it can be, it just kind of doesn't look right. So I find that you want to put the smaller pieces on the outside and then the bigger pieces in the middle. So I'm putting some of the crushed bits around the edge at the moment, and then I think I just fill any gaps at the end. It's pretty self-explanatory. You're just filling it basically with these crystals, and as long as you've got enough buttercream on there, then they'll stick perfectly fine. I didn't use anything else. And then I've got some which are completely crushed, so then I put those around the edge. I went a little bit more onto the top of the cake just because I found that it made it blend a bit better, by going onto the flat section, not just the bit that I'd cut out. And the shade that I got for this cake was bottle green. I will link it down below, but yeah, I got bottle green just because I found that it was the nicest dark green that she offered for the crystals. There was like a leaf green, but I'm glad I didn't go for that because I think it would have been too light. So with the one down here it's a bit more fiddly, but because it's upside down mainly, but you can just kind of push them in there with your hand and just try and fill any gaps as best as possible. So as you can see, I took my glove off because the sprinkles stick a lot better when you're using your finger, or like the crystals, sorry. Even with sprinkles, you'll understand what I mean. If you're a baker, they stick a lot easier to your finger because it's not a like matte surface. But yeah, obviously as long as your hands are clean, it's fine to use no gloves. A lot of people always ask, but yeah, as long as your hands are clean, then it's fine. It's not compulsory to wear gloves. So now we are taking the gold leaf, and I'm going to use some paint first just to add a bit of like stickiness, and then when I put the gold leaf on, then it will add some extra like glam basically. But I wanted the paint as a bit of a base so that it's kind of like a background colour. You can apply it wherever you want. I typically, when I do geode cakes, just apply it around the edge because I find that it gives it kind of like that crystal look where around the edge it's all shiny and then the middle is the main colour. So yeah, that's basically what I'm doing. You just use any brush This is a makeup brush because I find it's nice and fluffy. Obviously it's new, but yeah, most of my paint brushes I think are actually makeup brushes because I find that they apply a lot better, because they're not so like flat basically. This is a lot fluffier, so it gives a more rough look. And yeah, we're just going around the different areas, just blotting that on there, and you just apply as much as you want. You don't have to apply as much, or you can apply even more than I did. And then I'm using my knife again, and then we're going to go in with the gold leaf. If you haven't used gold leaf before, you won't understand the way that I'm applying it, but gold leaf sticks to anything, mainly your fingers, so I always use the wrapper to apply it. So as you can see, I'm not touching the gold leaf at all because it will get all over your fingers. So I always fold it in half, and then I use the paper to blot it in there. As you can see, we're just applying it around the edge. It is quite like sometimes loose, it doesn't necessarily stick down, so you can either use a brush to stick it down or just use your finger just to stick it down if it's starting to like fly away. This is another book that I got of gold leaf, and it's really fiddly to apply because the paper is so thick. I definitely prefer the one I got on Amazon. This one I think was from Cake Decorating Co. So we're just applying as much as you like on there, and also as much as you have. I always have loads of gold leaf, so I'm always very generous with it. So now we are on to making the chocolate details. So I started the camera later, but I added a little bit of green because I wasn't sure how it was going to colour. I wanted to initially do a green grenade, but then I decided to make it black because the milk chocolate didn't colour that well. I thought it might do like a dark green, but it didn't. So we are doing the bullets now because I did them black. So I used the Colour Mill black, and then I used the Colour Splash leaf green to make this colour. It did end up just looking black. So yeah, I would recommend Colour Mill for all chocolate things. Just because it is a lot easier, and it's not necessarily that it will seize and go rock hard if you use Colour Splash, but it does make it a lot thicker, and I find that it affects the taste. Whenever I do things like cake pops, if I use Colour Splash, I find that it's a lot more grainy, whereas the Colour Mill makes it just as runny because it doesn't affect the texture. So it means that when it eventually sets and you bite into it, it's not as like grainy basically. Sometimes this can be due to how you temper it, but I find that when you're colouring, it definitely makes a difference. If you add too much Colour Splash, then it does make it very thick. Even if it isn't like seized and going hard, it can still be very difficult to apply, especially when I'm trying to get it into these tiny moulds. It was just very difficult when I coloured it with the Colour Splash. So I've melted my chocolate. I'm using white chocolate now, and then I'm going to colour it green. And then I put it into a piping bag because, as you can see, the hole on the grenade was tiny, and I thought it was actually quite difficult to fill. I wish they had bigger holes on there because then it would be a lot easier. So I'm just waiting for the microwave. So once you've melted your chocolate, make sure it's not too hot when you're actually stirring it and colouring it. I didn't heat mine for longer than 20 seconds at a time, so mine's never very hot, but if you do it for longer than that, then you might have to wait before you colour it. So I've just put that in the piping bag, and then we are going to cut a teeny hole in the piping bag, and then you'll see me really struggle to try and get it in these grenades because they were so fiddly. So, and you also can't see how high you've filled them up. So I kept trying to work out how much I needed to put in there. But I think I worked out that I needed about 100 grams for each grenade. But yeah, they were very, very messy. So yeah, they were difficult, but we managed to do them in the end, so that was good. But I might maybe do them in halves next time, like just do half a grenade rather than a whole thing. But they definitely looked a lot better as holes, but they were really difficult to fill. If anyone has any tips on how to fill them, I did think about a funnel, but then I thought that the chocolate would probably just set in the funnel. and then not actually go into the grenade. So they are both filled, and then I put them in the fridge along with the ammo. I did miss a bit at the end of the decorating, so we'll get there eventually, but yeah, there is a slight bit which is missed off on the decorating, so I hope you don't mind. But I've inserted some photos at the end and also a little video that I did so that you can see the final result. So I'm using the Finch bakery tip here. I think it's the E. I'll write it on the screen, but I think it is the something E. I feel like it's either the 1E or the AE, and it's a bit like the 8B Wilton tip. It's very similar, but it gives that kind of like nice ruffled look. So this was the first time trying it out, so I was actually quite impressed. So we're applying the grenade. So we've got one black, then we've got a lint ball. These are salted caramel ones. I did actually move around the toppings a little bit after this, which you will see, but yeah, I didn't actually film part of it. So we decided to change the green M&Ms because they weren't the right green, so I ended up just using the brown ones. And yeah, so the cake is salted caramel flavour, so that's why we went for salted caramel lint, just to go with it. And then the M&Ms are M&M Crispies, so they were also delicious. So I just went to get the grenade. This one is for the side, that's why I did a half, because it will be going up against the side of the cake. And then the one on the top will be a whole one. They were actually really difficult to get out of the mould, so I was really worried that I was going to break it. So there was a lot of fiddling trying to get that out of there. There we go. So I just pop that in there. You don't need much to secure it. They're really quite secure, I find, whenever I put anything like this on the side of a cake. I always put a teeny bit of buttercream on the back just so that it sticks to the cake, and then the buttercream on the back will kind of like solidify. But you don't even need to do that necessarily because it will stand up on its own. Then I'm just trying to get the second one out. This one was really difficult. So this is a whole grenade, and that's to go on the top of the cake. There we go. So I did actually move things around after this, so you will see that in a minute, because I wanted it to all be central. So I think when I did the geode section it wasn't quite central, so then I needed to make the toppings in the middle, otherwise it wouldn't kind of like match or be like symmetrical. So we ended up moving a few bits around. As you can see, as long as you haven't put it in the fridge, the buttercream is still soft enough for you to just move. So that's what I did. So as you can see, I moved it around, I took the green M&Ms off, and then it was perfect. So I'm just putting some sprinkles on. I got these gold pearls from Sprinkler UK. I always use Sprinkler UK, either that or Tesco's, just because I absolutely love them. Sprinkler UK do really kind of like glam sprinkles, so I think that they're really, really good. And I get all the sample bags, so they're £1.30 each, which is so cheap. And you just get a sample bag, which is 25 grams, and then it means that you can have loads of different sprinkles and not have to buy massive boxes of them. So I'm just brushing off any excess buttercream, because where you sort of move bits of chocolate around and you're wearing a glove, which is the annoying thing about gloves, there is a bit of buttercream on the odd bit where it's transferred, so I just use a brush and just wipe it off. And then I did go round after this, I don't think I recorded it, but I did go round with some black paint and I just splattered it all over the cake because I felt like it added a little bit extra to it. And I also added the cake topper. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and this is just my little outro. So just another reminder to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell if you want to be notified about all my new videos. I do have a very exciting video coming up on Friday, which is about wedding cakes, because I did my first wedding cake last week, so it is going to be everything you need to know and everything that I learned from doing my first wedding cake. There will still be uploads next week. They are going to be pre-recorded, so I need to do that this week. If there's anything you want to see, then I'll make sure to get those up next week. And then there may be some vlog content from holiday. I might do like one vlog just of the whole holiday, just so that you can see what I got up to. But yeah, it will probably just be one vlog from the holiday, and that way you can see what I got up to, and yeah, it'll just be a little extra video. But yeah, and another little reminder that you can get 20% off on everything on the website up until Wednesday. It's Wednesday night. But if you want food postals, so postal brownies, chocolate slabs, then it has to be bought by Wednesday midday, because that's the cut-off for those. But any merch or like products like silicone moulds are included, then they can be purchased up to Wednesday midnight, and then they will be posted on Thursday. So yeah, I will see you in my next video. I hope you enjoyed.